to the Mai and John podcast. I know we've been missing in action for a couple of weeks. We'll admit it. And not until a couple of people said, hey, Mai, are you guys still going to do your podcast or what? We're like, oh, I thought no one noticed it.
We were hoping nobody noticed. But the one or two of you that did, we definitely appreciate you for holding us accountable.
Yes. And we feel wonderful that there's other people watching us, not just us. And so we are back for a short one. I won't get into too much details of why, life happens, things happen anyways, but we are excited to get back. And today we wanted to actually talk about something that is really dear to us. Our firstborn, Tyson, our son, just turned 9 on May 1st. So that was just a couple of days ago.
Yeah, we're recording on, today's the May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. So we definitely want to dedicate this recording to our firstborn son, Tyson Lim, who was born on May the 1st. And it's a great time of the year because we always kind of welcome the spring and the warm weather with Tyson's birthday, albeit it's usually still a little bit chilly on his birthday, but it definitely gets a lot warmer shortly after.
It's the mark of, as we celebrate his birthday, we also look forward to the season of warmth. It's summertime coming up. And so today we want to talk about, I guess, it's something I don't think we've ever really shared publicly anyways, is about our journey becoming parents, as well as just kind of like, I guess, our birthing, my own experience as
I'm not going to take
my birthing experience, and how and you can share how your experience and your feelings was throughout my birthing experience. I feel like we birthed a child, but of course I did the
You did all the heavy lifting, and I just made sure that you when you were thirsty you had something to drink, and when you were hot I was there to cool you, and when you were cold I was there.
We'll get more into that. But one day, Tyson, if you're watching this, mommy and daddy love you very much. And we are so excited that we're able to celebrate your 9th birthday together. And that, it's been a wonderful 9 years, lots of ups and downs. But we wanted to share with you our feelings of how we, first found out that when we became parent. So I know that after we got married, we knew, I guess a year later, we kind of knew that we want to be parents. And for us, we were really excited and we were working towards a parent. Do you remember how it happened that you found out?
Well, I mean, it wasn't a year. We got married in March 2013, and then we had so we got married in Dominican. We had a destination wedding March 13th. And then at the end of April, we had a second, a reception. Or was that the end of March? I don't even remember the dates.
Around April, yeah.
So around April, we had a second reception for all the guests that weren't able to come to the destination wedding with us. We celebrated here. And I would say within a couple of weeks.
Oh yeah, that's right. We give birth a year later.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm thinking we give birth a year later. But I guess we got pregnant.
Within a couple of months after we got married, at some point, Anthony we have a close family friend, a godbrother, if you will. He and his wife always, try to encourage us to not work so hard and always have always have a good time and party, and the night of what is it called? Conception. The night of conception, we were out partying at Rebel and having the whole bottle service, and it wasn't. I don't think it was one of those things that It wasn't. I mean, we definitely feel for all the parents that have to try, because conceiving is for some people is not the easiest thing to do. We've had experience where we've had difficulties, and but with Tyson definitely was not.
Oh yeah, that was pretty easy. I wonder how many people out there that got pregnant after a night of being drunken. I'm sure we're not the only one. I forgot about that.
Amongst other things. We it was just
and then
one shot, one kill.
Yeah, and I guess birth. I would have remembered because I felt something different, or I kind of missed, my period. And then, do you remember how I announced it to you? I kind of had a suspicion, and then so I must have, got a pregnancy test, and then.
And we were planning to go, like we had a sort of a honeymoon planned.
That's right, we had a honeymoon plan to go to Costa Rica.
And 2 months
before 2 months before the trip. That's how we found out. How did you find out? Did I just give you a test? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I think it was something along the lines of, at first you started throwing up. You had the morning sickness. A few weeks after that night out, and then we took a couple tests, and I think we even went as like we weren't sure, so I was just like hold
on, Tyson's listening. Tyson, we actually want to have you, okay? It wasn't just a night.
Yes, no, absolutely. We were ready to be parents, and
but
we were late parents.
Yeah, we got married late.
Our friends all basically, most of them at least, 90% of them had already had kids, and we were ready to be parents and what have you. And some of our best friends who got married within the same year, I think they had announced their pregnancy, so we were all, we were all
excited. We wanted to have kids that are the same age.
Yes.
So I vaguely remember. I think I did a test and I was positive, and I was so excited. And then I think I shared it to you, and we were both very excited, right?
And then just to be sure, we went back to the dollar store to get the dollar, because
they say dollar store tests are very accurate. Yeah. You don't need anything expensive.
Yeah, and they're very inexpensive, which was great. So we got another one, and then it turned out to be true. And then just to be thorough, I think we went to the doctor. Went to the OBGYN and
check.
I had a test.
And I remember, I was very excited, but then at the same time, I was kind of like nervous. I'm wondering, oh my gosh, we're pregnant. This is the new journey for us. What's going to happen next, right? And I guess the thing that everyone says is you have to wait for, I believe, 3 months, right, before you kind of announced. Until you're done your first trimester. I don't know if we were so excited we waited, but I don't think we waited the whole entire trimester, and we kind of shared the news to our parents and to our immediate family. But then the next round of thoughts that came to me was, oh, so how's this gonna work? Like, there's so many things that goes into my mind in terms of, from the first, is that, like, how am I going to give birth? And then the next thought is like, oh, how do we prepare for this baby? I guess it's kind of like, we are not fully equipped. We're ready for the baby, but what are we going to do, right? It's like, oh, is there a handbook that comes with this? Yeah. And there isn't any. So obviously.
Well, I know at that point when we were already thinking about it, I had the close experience of I guess as close as you could be, of not being a father, with seeing, what a pregnant mother goes through, and at the time I lived with my sister-in-law, with Michelle, and I kind of was there sort of seeing up close, not up close and personal, but we lived in the same house under the same roof, and I kind of saw what she went through with giving birth with my two nephews, and I was kind of there, right after the whole birthing process, not during the birthing process.
I guess
my brother was there But I was there right after to kind of,
Okay, I guess so. You see the kind of journey that your sister-in-law goes through as a
Yeah.
pregnant woman.
Yeah.
I've never lived with anyone that was pregnant, so for me, it was very different. And for me, it's I mean, I'm the one that is carrying the baby. So then in my thought, I'm thinking, wow, like, are there certain restriction? Now I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, I am responsible for this thing that's growing and living inside of me. What are the things I need to know? That's when I start to kind of have to look into, are there specific things I shouldn't be eating? Are there things I shouldn't be doing, certain activities? And, for the first time, I felt this feeling of being responsible, but not feeling responsible in a way where it's like, oh my gosh, I have to be like that. Like when your parents tell you gotta do this, but it's more of the feeling of, oh my gosh, like I'm responsible for this being that's going to depend on me. And I felt like that void of being needed is filled. It's kind of like, wow, like
there's like a switch that sort of
there's this
turns on.
There's this automatic switch right away, and I haven't even seen this child, this thing that is a peanut right now, and I already feel like, oh, I gotta be responsible. I gotta be smart with my choices. I shouldn't be, I think before that, sometimes I would be, I guess I would call a casual smoker before, not something I'm proud of either. I mean, it is what it is, that's fine. But I definitely right away said, oh my gosh, okay, no drinking, no social smoking, no doing anything that could harm my baby, right? And then
I remember one of the things, and it's so funny how when you're pregnant, it's like you become these like, you just become overly protective, and you kind of do anything you can just to make sure that the baby gets there safely. And I think one of the first things we learned with regards to dieting was not eating fish because of the mercury. Yeah, so you couldn't have salmon. You couldn't have any sushi, no raw fish.
Yeah.
And I guess that's for you, that's something that was fairly easy to.
Yeah. I don't eat a lot of raw food anyways. So I was fine with that.
But salmon you had to cut out too, right?
Yeah. For sure. And so anyway, so that feeling, that automatic switch of being responsible, but looking forward to that responsibility, being excited, I remember. But then the next phase was kind of like, ooh, so I guess I better start digging and reading. So I would buy some books, I would go online, and of course I would reach out to some of our friends, which, I have friends that have given birth and have kids, but I mean, it's not something I sit there and dig into and ask how was their experience like until, I'm pregnant. And that's when I decide to reach out to a few friends to ask about their own choices around giving birth. And for me, I guess, the typical path is, you get pregnant and then you hear that when your water breaks, that's a sign you go to the hospital. But there's so much more to it, right? And when I remember figuring out, like, okay, I'm not a fan of the hospitals. So that's when I was like, I'm starting to hear a lot of people that are going through other options and are now, instead of having an OB, had a midwife. So I think two of our friends also used a midwife. So that kind of opened up our eyes. And so we reach out and talk about what's that experience is like to have a midwife.
Yeah, because it's like, it is one of these things that, just like with parenting, there's no sort of right or wrong way of doing or giving birth, and whatever you decide. I think what's most important is whatever the mother or the birthing parent, whatever they decide is most comfortable for them, and whatever they decide that they feel the safest with, whatever it is,
whatever.
It's her choice. I'm trying to be politically correct, but I guess there's no way that a man can have a baby. So it's all her choice, and and what have you. And I mean, at that time, I know when we were talking about it, because the issue with getting midwives is at that time, 10 years ago, midwives were still sort of like, they're not covered under OHIP, I don't think, or are they?
I think they were in Ontario.
Oh yeah, in Ontario,
but
okay.
they were still. There's not a lot compared to regular doctors and OBs.
Yeah,
and so there is a waiting list.
That's
so
right. That's
apparently you
yeah.
need to apply to have a midwife. If you know that's the path you want to go, as soon as you find out you're pregnant, that's what you got to do. So I remember calling a lot of midwifery.
I remember even being told that if you wait until you get pregnant, sometimes that's like too late. Like you might not be able to get a team of midwives to help you.
But we were lucky enough. I called around and we found midwifery that had a spot open, and that was in Brampton, right? That was in Brampton, and so we decided to go with the midwifery route was because of what one of our friend Audrey shared with us was her experience and how, I guess, supported she felt, and it was just a nice, and they could come to you to do checkups and visits, normally, I guess you go to the OB, and then there's options.
There's like a birthing class. If you go to the OBGYN, you do 1 or 2 tests in the beginning. You sign up for a birthing class. That's I think a choice. You don't have to go. And then they come, around when you're in your 3rd trimester and you're close, then you do another couple of tests.
Well, it's hard for us to know because we didn't go through that route, right? So we can't really verify that.
Well, we did at first, because at first we were with our physician.
Oh, that's right, because we didn't have an OB. We have our family doctor.
Right.
Yes, and she would.
And then she said,
checkups.
"Well, this is this is your option if you were to go, and this is when you do these checkups and what have you." And then on top of that, we got lucky in getting a placement with
a midwife,
the Brampton midwife, Brampton midwifery, and
so
we
switched over.
Yeah, we made the choice to switch over.
And I remember that we also heard that, they were very open and it's not very quick. I noticed with my family doctor, we're in and out. But with the midwife, we're able to ask a lot of questions. It's just kind of like that environment where they really hold your hand. And I just kind of felt like I needed that for me. And then after that, there comes, these major important decisions like how, I'm going to give birth. What's that decision like? And for me, when I went with the midwives, I thought that it's fine. I'm going to give birth in a hospital, but the midwives will be there to support me. And I don't know what and how you kind of learned about it, but based on my memory, it was you who thought about it and said, what about home birth? And then in my head, I was like, what the heck? I'm the one giving birth here, not you. Why would you even suggest a home birth? How did you even?
Well, first of all, I have to put it in there that like a home birth is not an option for anybody who is at any sort of high risk, and those are all determined in your initial tests and stuff like that. So home births are not for everybody.
No.
That cuts out like, I don't know, at least 50% of people who are giving birth. But there was a couple of things. First, one thing that has always sat with me is my mom was supposed to, before my older brother was born, my mom was pregnant with her firstborn. And I just remember hearing and I remember the story. I vaguely remember the story now, but the story was basically she was in her, 2nd or 3rd trimester. She rushed to the hospital. They got into a little bit of a accident / altercation, on the way to the hospital, and then she ended up having a miscarriage. And I think it was a stillborn. I can't. I'd have to touch base and ask my mom again. But nonetheless, I was supposed to have an older sister, which would have been awesome. or maybe not, because then my brother would have been born second, and maybe they wouldn't have had a third kid. So then maybe I wouldn't have been born. But I like to think that I could have. I like to imagine that I could have had an older sister, but due to those unfortunate circumstances, she had lost the baby, and so with that has kind of always been implanted in my head of like, you see, even in the movies, how like it doesn't. Now that I've given birth, obviously it's not like it happens in the movie where they're sitting in a restaurant and they're everybody's casually eating, and then the water breaks, and then all of a sudden it's just like, here's my credit card, I gotta rush to the hospital, and then you take off.
Chaotic.
Okay,
yeah.
So, but side note, that put that aside, that was something that I didn't want to have that stress of between the water breaking and giving birth, of transporting to the hospital and stuff like that. So already I was just like, well, if we are if we are a low risk, at little to no risk of doing a home birth, I'm open to it. The second thing was my sister-in-law, who at the time when she was pregnant and giving birth, and my brother as well, were these like enthusiasts of being natural and clean this and natural that, and they talked about home birth. Unfortunately, they were at a high risk, so they weren't able to do a home birth.
Gotcha.
But I got exposed to it during my nephews, when they were, being born and what have you.
Gotcha.
And then that was already ingrained in my head. And then a few of our friends were open to the idea and talked about it a lot. But I think
we don't know anyone.
I don't know anybody who gave a home birth except for us.
It's so funny because when you brought that up to me, immediately I was like, oh my gosh, I am okay with a midwife, but at home, what happens if something happened? I brought it up with my mom, who said, no, come on, the hospital are so safe. Why would you be scared? The doctor's there, they can take care of everything. Why would you even consider having a home birth? That's not a great idea. And she really wanted to talk me out of it. Mind you, a friend of mine then said, you know what, if you're, I remember going to a birthing clinic and we were just talking and discussing different options. And then a friend said, you should watch the documentary, The Business of Being Born.
Yeah.
Right? Produced by Ricky Lake. Yeah. And in that documentary, it really did open my eyes, because I saw people that were giving home birth, and it was just explained to us how naturally, if we think about it, back in the days, the woman body is capable and are meant to give natural birth. Mm-hmm. And back long time ago, there was no epidural. There's no all these other things that can enhance or induce. And a lot of women were just giving home births. But it's about how to go through that process. And of course, like you said, as long as they're low risk, the reason why a lot of the time now we need to go hospital, because back then, I guess they couldn't detect which pregnancy are high risk or low risk. But now with all of,
hospitals
advanced,
were not, back in the day, hospitals were not like a business, so to speak, right? So they were not there was no OHIP back in the day. There was no, I don't believe they were funded the same way as
yeah, so now it's free. So it's a great option to go, and it has, but I guess the idea of home birth was still something that is kind of beautiful and natural, and you're at the comfort of your house, right? So I guess that new idea of home birth was slowly being sold to me. And after watching the documentary, I was really wanting to giving it a try and really consider it. First of all, I think part of me was like, well, I don't know anyone who's given a home birth. And part of me was like, wow, if I could do this, I'm always up for a challenge. That's just the way I am too. And I also like being comfortable, and I don't like medical procedures, and I don't like hospital to start off. So it kind of play in my favor, this idea of having a home birth. And of course, when you don't have a lot of knowledge about it, it's scary, but the more you dig, the more you read, and the more you find out the process.
But you know what, though? On the other hand, the less you know, like that's where ignorance is kind of bliss. Like you don't
That's
know, you also don't know
That's
all
right.
the complications of one
Yes.
side or the other.
Yeah.
So then you don't see, or hear all the negative stuff either, right?
That's right. Yeah. I know it's true, because I'm always like, how come no one tells us the details of these things? But maybe it's a good reason. So anyway, so going back to, so I was really considering home birth. So after doing a research, we decide, and we talked to our midwife, and they explained, if you do a home birth, these are the procedures and everything possible that a hospital has to prepare to deliver your baby will be available, and it will be set up all in your house, which is very comforting to know. The only thing that we cannot give you is the epidural. So if last minute you decide you need to have an epidural, then we would have to pack everything and transport you to the nearby hospital, and then we would continue. And I guess that was a decision we had to make. So then I had to make a decision that I will not get an epidural, so that way I can continue to have, I guess, my home birthing plan, right? Yeah.
That's
And I did talk to my mom about it, and she said, you know what, I gave birth to you without, I was like 8 or 9 pound baby, a huge baby, and she's tiny, and I was able to give birth to you. Back then there was no epidural, so that gave me some comfort too, that we have this ability, we are capable of giving a natural birth. And then when I went to the birthing class, they talked about how it's really about how you breathe through the process. And I think what helped was, years before I'm pregnant and during my pregnancy, I was really practicing mindfulness and meditation, and I read a lot. And it's really, one thing that really stuck out with me about the birthing process is they said it's all about focusing on getting through that 1 second pain movement. Because the way that, I guess, when we are going through labor, our contractions, yes, the pain is not like steady pain, but it peaks. So it peak and then it slow down, peak and slow down, and it peak, right? And it's that peak that you need to breathe through. So I thought about it and I said, okay, it's not like this continuous pain, but as long as I can breathe, I just focus on getting over that one peak at a time. I can do this because I can breathe. It's like, when I'm meditating, when I'm just focusing on one, being really present. And I thought about it, it's kind of like my mindfulness practice. And I think if I can just breathe myself through the labor, I'll be okay, right? And so that's when I had that more confidence, and I decided to continue with a home birthing plan. And so that's how we come about. Now, the actual day when the birthing experience, that's a different story.
Yeah.
We're gonna
have to get to that later.
I feel like we need to get to that on part 2, coming back. But it's quite the journey, and we wanted to dedicate a little bit more time just to share with you that actual day and then how it feels like after. But we wanted to, unfortunately, today we only have about 30 minutes to record this session, and we want to kind of get it in there. So we want to get out and share with you. And if you're watching and you are pregnant, or you're planning to be pregnant, and you're wondering, what type of birthing plans, you should consider, I think there's so much more information out there. I mean, it's been 4 years since I had my last baby, so I'm sure there's been a lot of changes. There's been a lot of updates, but those decisions that you have to make are still there. So if there's anything you're curious about and want to reach out to us to ask, feel free to do so.
Ask her.
Yes, and to my son who's going to be watching this see all the challenges we had to go through to give birth to you. You are truly a miracle, okay? Just remember that. But to be continued to the next session. So we look forward to talking more about this. Have a good day, guys.